Well, morning, fellas, zombies. 7:14 in the morning, Pacific Standard Time. It's 4:29, April 29th, 2023. Uh, here, John Sears, in California. I've been checking the national news these days. It was reported, I think, yesterday or last night. Several people were shot, a few killed. Texas, a Honduras family or something. I'm still trying to get the information out of the news, but apparently they're more concerned about, and probably rightfully so, concerning about the budget situation and the crisis still ongoing in the Sudan because we have a civil war, a bloody civil war extending throughout the country here. Escape routes are getting almost impossible to get there unless, of course, you have people flying in or sailing out, or actually flying out and sailing out. And in order to fly out, you got to have aircraft which are prone to bullet holes. Apparently, one particular country was trying to get their citizens out and discovered that they had bullet holes coming down. So, the United States, in its infinite wisdom, decided air travel is not for them, but they need to secure land routes from an area to Sudan all the way over to the coastline. And how are they going to be protecting the shipping lanes over there? You have NGOs and you have government agencies. You also have countries trying to get in their shipping to get people out, transport them over to Saudi Arabia where they can find flights home. And it's becoming worse and worse. Two generals at one time in Sudan, excuse me, one against a corrupt general, two corrupt against their own master. They get rid of him, but now the two guys are battling with each other left and right. I wanted to hear this.
Texas in a home there. There are others, three people who were injured. They're now in a hospital.
The San Jacinto County Sheriff says they found the victims last night after receiving a harassment report. And although their identities are not known, he believes they are from Honduras. A judge has issued an arrest warrant for the suspect, described as a Mexican man, according to a consulate card found at his home. Well, right now, 20 million people are in the path of another round of...
That's all the information I can keep getting at this point over here. It's a little bit more than what the other one was, which was a Mexican man this time going across borders, or just a Mexican man having an argument with people from Honduras. Okay, but nothing more. Family, including a kid, gets killed, but nothing more. Honduras gets a lot more attention, except for a family that gets killed, but nothing more. We get severe weather, we get severe flooding, we get severe weather going on, but nothing more concerning about the shooting. And because of the snows melting out in different portions of the country, now the Mississippi River is flooding. In certain spots, when we had the heat wave going on, without the change of weather conditions to freeze up certain areas, now the banks are getting overflooded. In certain areas of the central area of the United States, including along the river routes, are getting flooded out. And I hear politicians telling me that there is no such thing as global warming. Or someone They keep spouting off different theories concerning about Ice Age. And I'm thinking about this stuff as I'm seeing some of these clips passing around from one area to another area of so-called media. And they're telling me that this is acceptable. Shit, in an ice age that the Earth had a long time ago, we didn't have anything what we have right now. So I don't know what the hell this twerp was talking about in a meeting hall, but she also got talked down again. And talked to, and she didn't like it. And I can tell you that with the ice melting in certain areas, that there is excessive flooding because there's no precedent that we understand except weather going out of control, and now we're in for it. East Coast is going to be flooded out like crazy. A warm area of Southern California, or actually the warmest areas of the western areas, are fighting over drops of water. We may have gotten snowpacks, but they're going to be gone, and then the rivers and the lakes are going to be dried up again. Meanwhile, the East Coast is flooding out left and right. Florida doesn't even realize that they're going to be sinking, or they are sinking, and they just don't bother to understand it. No, because politicians don't even bother with it. Weather patterns are going to get even worse. Climatologists and other scientists have been trying to document and prove their information, and yet you got skeptical people who are trying to make political head points with people who are not so bright, shall we say. They accept conspiracy theories because that's all they think about. And what else is going on? So how about Mayor of New York City is getting sick and tired of all the other southern states sending refugees to their area just for politics, affecting thousands and thousands of lives, including those in the states where the immigrants are coming from. Immigrants. One of these here days, I gotta get the terminology right. There's been requests to FEMA, if I'm reading the headlines right, for FEMA to stop sending money over to the other states that are asking for more money because they can send more immigrants to the other cities. They want to make a political statement saying the borders are out of control, but we're going to force the other cities to capitulate and the other states to capitulate. It's like seeing the Speaker of the House, a so-called representative of my county of Kern out here in California, who wants to cut funding for a lot of important programs out there just to make his political points by threatening world instability. Of course, the GOP had passed a bill to alleviate our debt for another year. But the problem is we're going to be increasing it more and more because a lot of the rich people got tax cuts. And the poor people get screwed over one way or another. No, but Speaker of the House wants people to be cut on social programs left and right that they earned and needed. Social Security was a godsend back in the 30s and 40s, done by a Republican. I keep forgetting who the hell we had in office during that time. And it was trying to keep people from kicked out of their homes, starving to death. People trying to search for jobs, especially when the job markets fell, and whoever had to do everything else he can to keep the country afloat. And then Roosevelt got in. He was also a Republican. He was not a Democrat, I think. But even during that time, that they both tried to do what they can for the country, and not just for themselves. But what do I see right now is Republicans doing for themselves, and not for the country. But in the guise of it, here we go. There's going to be a commercial break on one of the news channels I'm watching, CNN. And I want to hear more about what the plan is supposed to be. Now, they've already passed a bill in the House of Representatives. And I just want to see what are we got working with here, because I think people have just lost their freaking minds. Oh, they've already lost their minds. What am I saying? It's crazy this morning. I mean, this is the political Saturday, I guess. I call it crazy Saturday. All the news from the week just piling in, and then we get to react to the damn thing. And Sunday's going to be politicians and everybody talking about it. And we start the whole cycle all over again on a Monday. Unless, of course, we're going to have something major happening, like maybe more disaster, people flooding out, people getting their asses torn apart left and right from winds and weather control and out of control weather, or other countries trying to do more civil wars somewhere. What gets to me is when you have state governments trying to curtail federal governments concerning about civil rights, including our freedom of speech, and trying to redefine it. They don't want the federal courts to do it. They want to do it themselves, which is still violating our civil rights. I mean, we have in the civil rights protections from the government. But when it comes down for corporates, that's a different story altogether. Give me one quick second. I'm going to keep the log on.
Ushered in a new era called TV.
The like button was a market genius. Gangnam Style. It can be frustrating this business of democracy.
I am running for president of the United States.
There was a moment that said, we have to tell our stories. Gangnam Style.
I may be the voice of my generation, or at least a voice. The 2010s premieres Sunday, May 7th at 9 on CNN.
Oh, Jesus. Joseph.
Hard.
Someone's chasing you. No, it's okay. We need to lock on this.
Sure do.
You keep your family safe from all the things you can see. Spectrum One's advanced Wi-Fi automatically takes care of all the things you can.
Yeah, you even get to hear commercial breaks, don't you? What gets to me is when state officials think they know better about federal regulations, and they screw things up left and right. You got one particular state governor going against the business who's been out there a hell of a lot longer than I have been born, or just about the same level. And Walt Disney didn't have the political issues we have today. They were different times, different attitudes, different looks. And these days, it's gotten more and more a political hot potato at this point that current company CEO and the board have to deal with. Here we go. CNN's coming on, and I want to get more stuff recorded. Well, maybe not just yet. But I wanted to get information about the theoretical Speaker of the House, who's the de facto.
Release the findings of their investigation into the failure of Silicon Valley Bank. The Federal Reserve says poor management is part of the reason why SVB collapsed.
Now, the report also pointed to management shortcomings and issues with Fed evaluations. Here's CNN's Rahel Solomon.
Victor Amara, good morning to you. The report was thorough, more than 100 pages. Its findings, damning. A textbook case of bank mismanagement, it reads. The Federal Reserve releasing its highly anticipated self-assessment, a post-mortem, if you will, on the collapse of Silicon Valley Bank on March 10th. Michael Barr, the Fed's Vice Chair of Supervision, writing in a letter that accompanied the report, bank senior leadership failed to manage basic interest rate and liquidity risk. Its board of directors failed to oversee senior leadership and hold them accountable, and Federal Reserve supervisors failed to take forceful enough action. In other words, this was a failure at every level. But we already knew that the Fed was aware of some of SVB's problems. According to recent testimony from Barr, more than a year before the bank fell, Fed supervisors began raising red flags. So why couldn't they prevent SVB's demise? Well, the report says that supervisors delayed action to gather more evidence, even as weaknesses were clear and growing. And this meant that supervisors did not force SVB to fix its problems, even as those problems worsened. The report also acknowledging that it's time for the Fed to reconsider how it evaluates some banks, saying, quote, "We need to evaluate how to ensure that supervision intensifies at the right pace as a firm grows in size or complexity." So what now? Well, Derek Tang, the CEO and co-founder of Monetary Policy Analytics, tells me, I think they're going to be a little bit more holistic as to looking at broadening the scope of what they look at, from financial metrics such as cash levels and the composition of their deposits to more qualitative metrics about the character of the banks. As for the larger banking system, Barr wrote that SVB was an outlier and, quote, "Our banking system is sound and resilient." Victor, Amara?
Rahel, thank you very much. Let's turn to Washington, and the clock is running on the debt ceiling standoff. Republicans hope President Biden will now be pressured to negotiate, but House Speaker Kevin McCarthy says he's not heard from the White House.
Yeah, House Republicans passed the debt ceiling proposal this week. Yes, it was a narrow win, but still a win for McCarthy, and it looks unlikely, though, it'll make it through the Senate. CNN's Elena Treen is live in Washington with more. Hi, Elena. So right now, Democrats and Republicans, yes, they are locked in a stalemate. President Biden said, "Show me a plan." McCarthy did, but it doesn't exactly make things easy anymore, does it?
No, it doesn't. And good morning to you. I mean, House Speaker Kevin McCarthy faced his toughest test yet, and he passed it. I mean, he was able to force through Republicans' debt limit bill this week. And the key question now is, what's next? The White House and Democrats, even before the Republicans had passed this bill, had said that this was dead on arrival and that they were going to reject it outright. But that does leave Congress in a dangerous stalemate over how are they going to get a deal that both sides can support. I will argue, though, that McCarthy did really secure a very useful talking point in getting this through, even though a lot of people, Democrats, mostly think this, is that even though it's an unserious bill, they are the ones, House Republicans, to have really successfully passed a bill to raise the debt limit.
All right, so what happens next?
Yeah, so what's next? So the next step that Republicans are arguing is that they need to sit down and have negotiations. President Biden and the White House say that they are not ready to do that. Their argument is that any discussion over spending cuts needs to be tied to the budget, not to the debt limit. And here's House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries on that this week.
The president has continued to make clear that he is willing to talk to anyone on Capitol Hill about the type of spending decisions, investment decisions, and revenue decisions that should be made to protect the health, the safety, and the economic well-being of the American people. There is a process for that to occur. It's called the budget. We are still waiting for House Republicans to produce a budget. They produced a ransom note and said, pass our irresponsible Default on America Act, or else we're going to default. That's not serious. That's not responsible.
So there's House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries on this, and he's backing up President Biden and the White House and saying no negotiations right now on this. But that position will become untenable soon. The debt limit deadline is approaching fast. Current estimates put that at some point in July. And meanwhile, there are some Democrats who are beginning to put pressure on Joe Biden to start negotiations, people like Senator Joe Manchin. And so we're going to see that play out in the coming weeks.
Elena Treen, thank you. CNN political analyst and PBS NewsHour correspondent Lauren Lopez is here with us now. Hey, Lauren, so, all right.
So they're going to have their experts yammer at the audience concerning about it. Let's hear what my take is at this point. We're screwed. We're screwed. As much as I have experienced in my lifetime of seeing budgets go through, I haven't heard anything discontentious from the Republican Party until the last nearly 20 years or more than that, when extremists had got into the government system, and now we're screwed over because they want anarchy in a way that undermines our democracy right now as it is in our country. But because they can have their way and they're going to be making demands about it. Now we got people coming up from the woodworks making more demands concerning about how the country should or should not be. Of course, we all have our right to have our voice of opinion, but does it also count that we have to have our budget reflected in a ransom note, especially when we're trying to get a bill passed in order to, you know, you may raise the debt ceiling, where it's been ongoing for a hell of a long while. And all these cuts and all these recommendations of having services curtailed should have been put into the damn budget. But they want it now. They want it locked. They want it for their constituents. They want to scare the hell out of people. And the only way to do that is by holding our credit and our good name hostage. This is a political ransom note. Do it our way or else we collapse everything. This is a villain. A hero has to weigh the ramifications and try to find a way out of it. But a villain says, I got nothing left to lose. I'm just going to threaten people left or right. They got to follow me or else. I'll fill it with fear and intimidation. So this is what we have, the fear and intimidation. The House of Representatives, controlled by the maggots. I did say maggots, because that's what they are. All the damn House Representatives, all the GOP in there, who are following this damn shit and also allowing it to happen. Well, they got the Speaker of the House who fought like hell to get his job, but ushered out most of his power to maybe a select few that are running the whole damn operation, apparently. So now, if we get the budgets in this damn resolution we've got going on, we're screwed. Social programs like disability, Social Security, screwed over. SNAP benefits, screwed over. Oh, if you're single and you're able to work, you'll get food. Even if they happen to be working at less than hourly job wages that they can function. 2 or 3 jobs, is that what they want? Slave driven again? But unfortunately, some adults had to do that for a hell of a long while, so it's the thinking still. As long as we still got the jobs, you're still working. You're still paying, barely. Some people are still living out of cars. You can't work for one reason or another. But if they're able to figure, even a person with mental illness or physical disabilities are still able to work. If they're able to work, they work. Doesn't matter if it's a damn retail job or not. Wait a second, can they work retail jobs? I think so. But in certain areas that they can work in at low wages. And fast food's getting more and more automated these days. The areas are not exactly conducive to wheelchairs or crutches or even walkers in those areas. I'm considered somewhat able if I'm still walking. But even if I happen to be in a wheelchair, even wheelchair people can work at different jobs, at different office jobs, if there are jobs out there for them to work at. Or even manufacturing, if they've got it, if the manufacturers have it engineered for handicapped people to work. We do have the ADA working. And without that, handicapped people would not be able to compete with the able-bodied enough. But right now, Right now, our job market out here in the Roseman area sucks. Everyone has to go out for different different towns to get jobs. We're lucky enough that we have a few retail jobs out there, but it needs able-bodied people, strong backs, strong feet, strong legs, and able to withstand some of the hours that they have. It's not long grueling. 4 or 5 hours to barely pay for anything. See, all the part-time jobs we have around here, 4 to 5, maybe 6 hours if you're lucky. Maybe $10 or $12 an hour still doesn't pay for rent or bills or food. You have to get another job to survive and manage on that one. You would have to keep going to food banks to supplement your own food. You have to go to rental assistant places to pay for bills. Even at one time in the county systems that we have out in LA and possibly in Kern County as well, there are programs out here to pay for the bills one time if the bills have gotten so damn bad and so damn high, and we have to show them that they have and our income and explain the situation. One time debt relief on that. Just one time. And after that, you don't come back ever again. So some people will take advantage of it, but most won't. Because it's a one time. It's not once a year. It's one time. A one-time bailout. My family had to deal with that one at one time, a long time ago. Living in San Fernando Valley, we had the bills concerning about DWP. We had the rent to deal with. We had the food bills. And we had other expenses we just couldn't do. My brother was in between jobs. My mother couldn't get enough clients, and I was sure as hell wasn't working enough with a temp assignment that was barely paying for anything. Even back in the 80s and 90s, we still had money issues. We still had food issues. We scraped by with whatever we had. But during those days, we didn't have to go to food banks, luckily enough. Almost. But these days we have to. We got food banks out there struggling enough trying to get more donations so they can hand out the food so people can live and survive on. There are places that can deal with SNAP benefits out in LA, but of course you got to have money on your food card for that, and you have to be a county resident. Food giveaways, at least I know a few of them, don't check the ID to see if you're going to be in places, but a lot of them have to, and I've seen churches do a one time with people coming from even out of state or out of county. They'll allow them to get them some food, but that's about it. And then after that, forget it. Things getting hard these days. We keep telling ourselves. If we actually had a real collapse of our economy, we'd be going back to the eras back in the 1920s, no, actually the 1930s. Our early 20s would have been over with. All the delusion that you can make hand over fist, and promissory notes, but they'll still be acting as money and you can live like kings and stuff. Delusions and delusions of it. And then all the money and all the promises they made into their accounts goes up in smoke because the world economy collapses. So we're afraid in here. That's what I'm afraid about our economy here in the United States. Our politicians and the voters, some of the extreme on both ends, duking it out and screwing around with our economy. Either we take more food out of people's mouths, either we screw them over into rent, or screw them in one way or another. Just the rich can get richer and eat they keep their money and the poor people get walked over left and right. So, what do we say? What do we say to this situation? I sure as hell don't know because I got a problem with the damn thing. Have I ever seen the economy get tanked like this before? No, but I've seen the banking crisis back in '07. Working first year over at Walmart, the only job that could hire me, and I was barely paying anything during those days. I had several mouths to feed, 3 dogs and 3 human beings, including my own. One of them was a disabled lady, needed constant care. My brother, who was also disabled, sorry, things in my eyes, so I just gotta keep talking. Distracting as it is, some things are distracting, and I still have to keep talking about it because they're also part of the story. I lost a perfectly good job, but with a lot of changes happening at this one job. Too many things happening. Too many personal crises. And company going through changeover and policy shifting and personnel changes. It's no wonder I lasted that long in a call center of an insurance company. Long ago. Company trying to survive and they get bought out and screwed over. Welcome to business. And in the end, people get screwed over one way or another. And even during that time, getting about a year of GR and then trying to struggle looking for work left and right. People wanted online resumes. They wanted things sent online, emails. Went to job fairs when I could. Put in resumes. Had a few interviews. I wasn't the right catch for it all. No matter how much I pad my resume to the point where I think I was Mr. Perfect for them, I wasn't. That's alright. These days I don't think I could do the work anyway. This was the stuff I was looking for anyway. No. Last job I applied at on a job kiosk, a damn machine. And next week after that, I got interviewed. And during these days, I was still trying to fight for every damn GR dollar I could get every month. I had to go through a job training program and list a lot of places applied at. That nobody ever responded. No one. And still had to take care of her mother, and we were still bouncing from one place to another place. Ma's inability to function became more and more apparent. She was getting more and more bedridden and more mentally out of it. Dave and I had a struggle. Dave had a hell of a lot of health conditions happening with him, and that he was the primary caregiver. I was just trying to be the primary breadwinner. I finally got the Walmart job, which was the last place to apply and the first place that hired me. I had to keep an area, and I had to keep an attitude of gratitude most days. The other days I'm wondering, what the fuck am I doing here in the first place? Five years of working in that place and working of hell. Call center was no better when I had it earlier, but shit happened in that place and they disappeared. They're gone. History. Nobody knows of us anymore. But in Walmart, you're just a dime a dozen. If you can survive in there after your probationary period, if you can survive about a year in the registers, if there's any positions open in the sales, you're grabbing because part-time work is only for cashiers. Full-time work is for sales. I needed the money. I needed the hours. I didn't like it, but I had to go for it. And the only place I had available was automotive. Automotive and me. Go figure. I never understood mechanics. It was auto mechanics anyway. I never was interested in auto mechanics. And yet here I am working in an automotive department behind a register, processing sales, stocking shelves, listening to people talking about the products, and then repeating it like a damn parrot to everybody else. I don't know auto products, okay? You know, told these guys that, but it was a full-time job, and I was going to be learning on the damn job, so that's what I did. Learned while I was there, and I did. Did I like it? No, I didn't, but I was there. I had to have an attitude of gratitude, and I had to be an energetic employee. Despite the fact my body may have been giving out on me, but shit. No canes during that time, just bust your ass and bust your kneecaps. Almost. Kneecaps are sore as hell, and getting on the floor most of the time was hard as hell, so I had to get me some padding for it. I'd seen one guy who was older than I was, about several 7 or 8 years older, maybe older than that, and he was working maintenance, cleaning up the place, and he had to wear kneecaps, padded pads for his knees. He had to get on the floor. He was grateful for having a job, even though his body was killing him during that time. His back and his knees also. But he was doing it because he needed to work. He needed to survive. It was the lowest paying end, but it was a job. There was older gentlemen and older folks working in the company in less than glamorous areas, and even people greeters would be the elderly, or sometimes the kids being replacing them. As long as they had the attitude, they had been in the company before the company actually changed from where Sam Walton was working it, then passes away, and then the corporates took over, and then everything else went hell in a handbasket. But they still stayed because they were Walmart. They were indoctrinated into the damn thing. That they saw the changes. They didn't like it, but they were stuck with it one way or another. If I hadn't had a tire falling on my face back in that company, I probably still would have been working my ass off, but not for long. And it was getting harder and harder to find a job at my age. That's why I had to hold on to the job as much as I could until it was time to let me go. I said certain mistakes build up, and bye. That was it. No extra money for anything. You just, here's your last paycheck, get the fuck out of here. Next. That's how Walmart worked. Usefulness. Your usefulness is over. You're useless now. Bye. Tried to mollycoddle you, but you couldn't mollycoddle you anywhere. Yeah, shit happens. Anyway, I guess that's enough griping for this particular vid.